The land of Hydaelyn and its shards are the home of countless tales, some of prosperity and salvation, or of hope and glory, while others are of tragedy and horror, like the story of the mistress who mutilated the faces of her servants, or when you discover the truth of what's in the meole that Vothri fed to the people of Yulmore, or when you see this in the trial roulette. Terrifying, right? Well, in the spirit of Halloween, we're going to cover a lesser-known tale. The tale of a young adventurer who left her home in search of glory. But where your journey led to fame and fortune, hers led to the loss of her fiancé, her friends, her life, and even her soul. Today, we're covering the tale of Edda Blackbosom. When you first see Edda and her friends, they are outside of Sastasha, getting ready to join the raiding parties that are trying to force Captain Madison and his pirates out of Lenosha. You don't see her again until after your expedition into the Tamtara Deepcroft, but while your trip ends in victory, hers, not so much. Her fiancé was killed in the fighting, and as a result, the rest of her group abandons her. Pyoreo leaves to do his own thing, as does Leoven, but not before telling Edda to get rid of her fiancé's head that she was apparently carrying around in her backpack. Leoven eventually joins the Scions of the Seventh Dawn, where she is later killed when the Garleans invade the Waking Sands. When you next see Edda, she finds you in Ul'dah. Her fiancé Aver had talked about you nonstop. He swore that he'd be an adventurer like you one day, but since his death, Edda had started to think about giving up adventuring entirely. But thinking of everything that you've accomplished makes her want to be like you as well, so she has decided to return home and start her training anew. But she wanted to meet you first, so she could find out the name of the person that her lost love admired so much. Afterwards, she leaves, and it will be a very long time before you see her again. But your next meeting will be very, very different. Sometime later, you run into Pio, who recently received an invitation from Edda to a wedding, which would be perfectly normal if it wasn't for the fact that the groom's name is Aver. To make a strange situation even weirder, the wedding is being held in the Tamtara Deepcroft. The letter also said that Leoven was going to go, which is kind of hard since she's buried in the graveyard outside of the Church of Saint Adama. You and Pio visit her grave, only to see that it has been destroyed, and her corpse is missing. With everything that happened to Edda, Pio thinks she must have snapped, and he's partially to blame for abandoning the poor girl after their tragic adventure. The only way he can think to help her is to go to this wedding and talk some sense into her. Since she looks up to you, having you along could only help the situation, but Pio rushes off ahead of you because whether you come or not, he feels he owes Edda this much. The guard outside of the crypt tells you that Pio has already gone inside, with a woman dressed from head to toe in white. She looked excited, while the Lalafell looked terrified. Inside the crypt, you see reanimated body parts and tormented souls whose rest has been disturbed by the dark magic being cast on the lower floors. Leoven, reanimated with no will of her own, attacks you along with an assortment of soulless bodies. Further inside, you find Pio bound in the center of a ritual circle that seemed to be meant to separate his soul from his body. You save him and travel further into the horror show until you find Edda in the middle of resurrecting Aver's head. She turns her creepy gaze on you, dead set on using your body and soul as the new vessel for her lost love, allowing him to finally be the adventurer that he idolized so much in life. You battle the abomination and destroy it, causing Edda to stumble backwards in horror at losing her fiancé a second time. The hem of her dress catches fire from one of her own candles, and she topples over the ledge, falling down to the dark depths below. Had that been the end of her tale, it would have been tragic enough, but even the peace of death would evade the poor woman. As you explore the Gelmoran ruins known as the Palace of the Dead, a ghostly figure follows your every step, drawing closer and closer until you finally come face to face with your pursuer. Edda has been drawn back into the world of the living by an unknown entity, and you are forced to slay the woman yet again. Defeating her this time seems to snap her spirit out of a trance. She doesn't remember how she ended up there. She doesn't even seem to remember what she did to Leah Vin or tried to do to you and Pio. All she remembers is falling and seeing a robed figure, then darkness. She fades away, leaving behind her engagement ring, which you take to Pio, who has resorted to drinking to try and stop himself from thinking about Edda. Seeing the ring gives him an idea. It's a simple one, but one that he hopes will allow Edda and Aver to both rest in peace. He wants to give the two of them a proper send-off, and since you have Edda's ring, all he needs is Aver's, and he can lay the greatest symbols of the fallen adventurer's affection to rest together. The night before their dreadful trip into the crypt, Pio and Aver got so drunk that they fell into the river. It was all fun and games until they realized Aver had lost his ring. It was stuck in his gauntlet, so with a little luck, it should be nearby. For once, things work out well, and you find the ring. Together, you both head to Summerford, where Edda and Aver first met, to give the pair a proper send-off. As Pio leaves, vowing to do all that he can to prevent other adventurers from suffering the same fate as Edda and Aver, you hear the voice of a young woman whisper the words, "Thank you," as her soul is finally allowed to rest. This concludes the tale of Edda Blackbosom. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up, and make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on the next video.